Okay. Doc Marvin, is it presenting po? Yung slides.
Yes, Doc.
Thank you po. Okay po, probably can start. It's 6:30 p.m. already. Okay, so a blessed and grace-filled Wednesday evening to everyone who are logged in this virtual room. Okay, so I am Ma'am Bernadette Lejarde, the Division Career Guidance Program and Homeroom Guidance Coordinator, DepEd, Division of Pampanga, Region 3. Indeed, I am humbled and blessed for this opportunity as the moderator of tonight's discussion on Day 2, Authentic Knowing, Authentic Living, Stories from the Lens of the Experiencer. Okay, so this event is an initiative of the EdCore Educational Research Center under its advocacy project, Mananaliksik for Everyone, which main aim is to help researchers, students, both students and professionals all over the country, especially during this time of pandemic. Dr. Adrian Lawrence P. Carbajal is the overall project of Project Sagip Mananaliksik one-on-one, while yours truly is a project coordinator Sagip Mananaliksik for everyone. These projects are both with DepEd Advisory. And of course, my respect to Dr. Richard D. Sanchez as the head research consultant of EdCore. On this note, I would like to acknowledge the presence of the national consultants, regional coordinators, provincial, division, city coordinators, and all EdCore research consultants who are present in the event. At this point in time, I would like to call on the virtual floor for a welcome message to be delivered by Dr. Girlie M. Samson, Assistant Professor, Bulacan State University, Malolos City, Bulacan, Central Luzon.
Thank you, our dear moderator. Let me welcome everyone. So it is with privilege to welcome and thank you all for joining and be a part of our second day of Authentic Learning, Authentic Living, Stories from the Lens of the Experiencer. As most of you know, these virtual events focused on drawing conclusions, on patterns and themes, formulating recommendations based on conclusions, and listing of references. Over the past days, we are exposed to a thought-provoking topics that help us to be more productive in the field of research. Let us always remember that in EdCore, we are all invested in our success, and we are looking forward for the many ways in which we will enhance our research journey and discovery environment. EdCore indeed offer a great support system to all of us. As the saying of Neil Armstrong goes, research is creating new knowledge. Being a researcher requires dedication, hard work, authenticity, and experience. And without much ado, I'm eager to learn and to listen tonight, as I'm sure you are. Let's get started, and thank you again for joining us.
Hey, thank you, Dr. Girlie and Samson, for the heartwarming message. Okay, so for the topics we discussed tonight are as follows. Draws conclusion from patterns and themes, formulate recommendations based on conclusions, and list of references. For our participants Please take note that assignments
Doc Det, na-mute po yata kayo.
Yes po. Okay, so sorry for that. For our participants, please take note that assignments, outputs are to be submitted after the event to the lecturer's email address, and please correspondence embracing the culture of research at gmail.com. Okay. For the flow of the webinar, please observe the following. Turn off microphone. You may or may not open your camera, but you can open them, please. Use as identification the acronym of your institution and your last name, first name. Example, PNU Flores Marites. Questions or your thoughts may be typed in the chat box to be entertained after the talk. Okay. Okay, let me just share my screen again po. Okay. Truly, we are very fortunate to have a respectable and dignified person who is a recipient of several outstanding accomplishments and awards. Okay, to name some, most outstanding public secondary teacher, school year 2015-2016, Schools Division Office of Masbate City, National Curriculum Writer for Alternative Learning System of the Department of Education, Member Regional Corps of Trainers DepEd Region 5 Alternative Learning System. Okay, those are just few of the accomplishments of our resource speaker. Okay, who resides at Punta Nursery Street, Masbate City, and happily married. Friends, ladies and gentlemen, a virtual applause for our resource speaker today, the Education Program Specialist 2 for All Schools Division Office of Masbate, Masbate Province, Dr. Marvin Manlapas Garcia.
Good evening, ma'am. Clear po, ma'am, yung aking audio. Okay, so good evening po.
I'll start sharing your screen, sir.
Okay. To our moderator, Dr. Bernadette, Lejarde, ating nagbigay po kanina ng welcome remark or welcome message, Dr. Girlie and Samson, and to the leaders of our organization and course. So, since yesterday hanggang kaninang 5 p.m. po ay on board po ako sa mga topics dito po sa aming DepEd Region 5. At the same time, multitasking po kami. I will do my best po to give justice to my topic. Okay, we are on our second day.
Doc Garcia, is it presenting already?
Yes, ma'am. For everyone, my topics are gross conclusion from patterns and themes, formulate recommendations based on conclusion and less references. Next slide po, ma'am. Next slide po, Doc. Okay, let's have a simple chicken activity in our discussion for today. I want to know what is your internal weather report. Kindly check in or answer in our chat box. Describe your internal weather report. Kung ikaw ba ngayon ay, sige ma'am, paki-ano po ng ating mga, please project our figures there. Are you sunny today? Are you hot? Cloudy, snowy, cold? Next, ma'am. Rainy, thundery, windy, or stormy. According to our admin, always hot. Wow. Yung iba po, others. Para medyo, ano tayo, magkaroon tayo ng gana. Okay? A bit windy, according to Doc Paul Jan. Sir RJ Rayo, a bit cloudy. Sir Alan Calderon, hot. Wow. Princess, Ma'am Princess Tempiangco, thunder sa ating pong host. Sir Cyril de la Fuente, rainy. Sir Philip, sunny. Ma'am Angie from Region 10, stormy. Okay, it's nice to hear that all of us are participative with our discussion today. Thank you very much for your participation and welcome to our topic for tonight. Okay, ma'am, next slide po tayo. Ako din dito po, hot. Reggie, cold. Sir James Andrew, cloudy. Okay. Now, what is conclusion? According to Agent Bottom 2015, when we talk about conclusion, it is not simply a summary of the findings and the research conducted. So we have our research findings. We are not simply give the summary of the findings, but most importantly, the conclusion provides a significant and vital opportunity to explain to our reader the importance of our research. Okay, next po, ma'am. Next. Okay. Also, the conclusion provides the potential to explore depth and details the broader implication of the findings. Conclusion is an opportunity for the researcher to explain depthly in details the implication of the findings being made through the whole research, and also stating the limitation of the research and clearly delineating the parameters. But because in our researches we have limitations, we have parameters. In this situation, in conclusion, we have a chance to do that, and of course, this is our chance to explain to our readers our study is all about. Okay, next po. Okay, in qualitative research, the conclusion of a research is not expected to generalize its findings. Later on, as we go on with our discussion, why is it that conclusion does not directly generalize the findings of a certain research? Okay, let's move on. Now, in a song, we can compare research as the last chord of a research. As we all know, in our introduction, the introduction gives the first impression of the research. And if we compare our research or our study in a song, our conclusion is the last chord in a song. That's why it is important to explain to our readers the implications, the gap bridged by our study in the conclusion part. Okay, next. Next, ma'am. Next, doc. Okay. In the conclusion, we should state it in simple and clear language. Okay. Balik po, ma'am, doon. If we're trying to make our conclusion, see to it that the language that we are using, or we are stating our conclusion in a clear, using clear and simple language. Because the most important in stating the conclusion, the readers or the our audiences of our researchers should understand the importance or the implication of that of our research. That's why the conclusion should be stated in clear and simple language. Also, in our conclusion, it describes the value of your research. So these two features will be discussed deeply as we go along with our discussion this evening. So there are key questions that we should consider in making our conclusion. Next month. Next po, Doc. Okay. These are the key questions in making our conclusion. Does my research findings expand the existing literature? Okay, because in our researches, we have a chapter allocated for research, related literature and as well as studies. So that's our question or our conclusion answers this question. Does my research findings expand the existing literature? So we will try to consider this one in making our conclusion. Next. Okay. Does my research findings expand and okay, tapos na po yan, ma'am. Do my research findings affirm what the literature says? If so, does it proposes something new? So these are the three questions that we need to answer in formulating our hypothesis. Okay. Next, let's proceed po. Okay, let's have the types of conclusions for research paper. My reference is Samosa et al. 2021. Okay, we have three kinds. We have here summarizing conclusion. Typically, summarizing conclusion is being used in majority of researches. Under this type of conclusion, we give a clear summary of the main points about the topic of the research. Okay, so from the word summarize, we summarize the important points in the findings of our research. Now, when we talk about internalizing conclusion, from the word externalize or external rather, so when we talk about externalizing conclusion, it presents points or ideas that may have been directly stated or relevant to the way you presented your research and thesis. Okay? So there are new ideas that build off the topic you initially presented in your research, which are different from summarizing conclusion. Now, in editorial conclusion, you can present your own concluding ideas or commentary, but take note, Your ideas should be based from the existing findings and with supported by evidences or data. Okay, let's have characteristics of conclusion. Next po, ma'am, or doc. Okay, these are the characteristics of conclusion. When we talk about conclusion, they can be inferences, deductions, abstractions, implications, interpretations, general statement, uh, or generalization based upon the findings. So we always base our conclusion from our research findings. So from that findings, we formulate inferences, deductions, abstractions, implications, interpretations, general statements that are related, once again, as I said a while ago, to our findings. Okay, another characteristic of, of conclusions, ma'am? Okay. So as we all know, we have in the beginning of our research or thesis, we have our statement of the problem or the questions that we need to answer in our study. So our conclusion should appropriately answer the specific question. Later on, I will be discussing what are the common errors in making conclusion, because our conclusion should answer the specific questions raised at the beginning of our investigation in order they have given under the statement of the problem. So kung yung una nating question sa statement of the problem, yun dapat ang ating pong bigyan ng conclusion first before the other question. Okay. Next. Okay. Most importantly, it should point out what were factually learned from the inquiry, meaning evidence-based, based from the findings, based from the decision-making or from the interpretation in the given data or collected data in our research. Okay, next po. Okay, conclusion should be formulated concisely, that is brief and short. Okay, yet they convey all the necessary information resulting from the investigation. This is very important. Conclusion should be stated concisely, brief as much as possible in order to convey the most important information resulting from the investigation. Sometimes, if our conclusion is too long, the necessary information not mainly presented or taken for granted because of the so much words that being used or too sentences being made using in making conclusion. Next. Okay. Now, what are the purposes of a conclusion? As I said a while ago, stress the importance of the thesis statement. So, in the first part of our research or of our study, we have their statement of the problem or thesis statement. Now, one of the purposes of a conclusion is to give the importance of what what is the purpose of your research. Now, give the written word a sense of completeness. So if there is no conclusion, your research is incomplete. Now, in order for the research to be complete, we need to have a conclusion. That's why ang tawag po sa kanya nga is conclusion. In conclusion part, in this part of our study, we leave a final impression to our reader, on our reader rather, and also demonstrate good organization. Next. Let's have now the importance of a good conclusion. So as much as possible, we need to state our conclusion in the best manner. Okay, according to Prieto et al. 2017. Presenting the last word on the issues you raise in your paper. Okay, so this is the time that you need to capture the attention of your reader on what are those issues that you need to point out, and by providing a good conclusion, you are giving emphasis on the things that you want to discuss on them or to share with them with your research study. And of course, summarizing your thoughts and conveying the larger significance of your study. Okay, this is the time that you should convey your reader, the research world, that the importance of your study, about the importance of your study rather. Okay, let's proceed. Okay, so we all know that we have the review of related literature. Since there is a gap, diba, meron tayo dyan gap to be bridged by the study. We should discuss in our conclusion the gap bridge or the gap addressed by our study. That is one of the importance of a good conclusion. In order for our readers to realize, make them feel the importance of your study, let your conclusion explain how it address, how it bridge the gap on the issues that needs immediate concern. Okay, next. Okay. Demonstrating the importance of your ideas. This is, as I said a while ago, this is the best chance of the researcher to demonstrate the discovery, the, what you call this one, our part, kumbaga yung ambag natin sa body of knowledge or in it on the topics that we are studying. This is the best time to demonstrate the importance of our ideas, of our research. Okay, introducing possible new or expanded ways of thinking about the research problem. Sometimes we have researches coming from recommendations, and sometimes we conducted research coming from those recommendations from the previous researches. In a good conclusion, this is the best time that we expanded ways of thinking how about taking consideration the recommendation from the previous researches, that your research give possible solutions. Okay, next. Okay, demonstrating the importance of ideas. Tapos na po yan, ma'am. Ay, Doc, sorry. Next po. Okay. Let's have the types of conclusion for research papers according to Samoa et al. 2021. Okay. The conclusions drawn do not correspond to one item in findings alone. Okay, so meaning we should consider, later on I will discuss it, what are the ways to present our conclusion, especially in a descriptive or qualitative research. At least one conclusion should directly address your general questions or objective. Meaning, we should consider the statement of the problem in our research, and then there should be at least one conclusion that should directly address your statement of the problem, or generally general questions or objectives in your study. Okay, next. Okay, remember that each conclusion should be supported by sufficient evidence obtained during the study. Ngayon, if you're going to make a conclusion with insufficient evidence, it is much better to remove it. Because, however, the the evidences from our research, when we use our research tools, uh, should be based on our research questions or statement of the problem. So if you made a conclusion with insufficient evidence, not supported by sufficient evidence, it is better to remove that conclusion. Meaning, we should state our conclusion or make our conclusion based from the evidence of our study. Okay. Avoid merely repeating the findings you stated in the summary. Okay, next. Self-explanatory na po yan. Okay. Limits the conclusion to the subject of the study. If the stated conclusion is not related or somehow beyond your study, please revise it or you can delete it. Avoid extending it to the other populations or subjects from different contexts. That's why meron po tayong limitation of our study. Next. Scope and limitation of our study. Rather, next po. Observe other conventions in writing conclusion subsection. Later on, I will be presenting to you the ways of writing the conclusion. Next. Okay. And drawing and verifying conclusions from qualitative data among the most useful in analysis are. Ito po yun. So this is a central subject of our topic for tonight, noticing patterns and themes. So, like for example, in descriptive research, or we have qualitative data or research, for example, coming from interviews or survey questionnaires, there are times that we group data according to themes. So that is an example of noticing patterns and themes. Okay. It may, however, happen that evidence may be applicable to one or more themes, but those data that we gather from our research question, we need to analyze the similarities of ideas and patterns and somehow group them according to themes, or themes rather. And somehow, we are making contrast and comparison. For example, we gather data from teachers, from stakeholders. We try to collect or group the data that are similar and or are different. Now, we are making contrast and comparisons out of that data that we collected. Number 3, clustering. When we talk about clustering, groupings or categorizing, we set categories or clusters to the data that we have taken or collected, and the method of doing that is clustering. So we base our conclusion from that, especially in qualitative data. The next one is counting. Uh, we have we are using frequency counts, or we count the responses of our respondents. We have a sample of that, sample of a part of conclusion in a research report. Next po, ma'am. Parang delay po yata yung monitor ko dito. Okay. One of the key findings about traditional health practices in the Philippines, particularly in Iloilo City, is that local blind community has revived a traditional healing massage practice called Hilot. Marami yan sa Pilipinas. The blind therapists who offer commercial massage services and 3 big malls in the city have formally learned Hilot and have integrated this tradition practice into their massage services. These key findings extended the literature on traditional, alternative, and complementary health practice by investigating the local blind communities, especially in the Philippines. Okay. So relating that to some practices in our country. These communities in this part of the Philippines had not been investigated previously. So that study give us a new idea about the blind people having a traditional healing massage called Hilot. Okay, particularly rather how the blind community appear to curb a niche in commercial massage services owing to socioeconomic factors such as the limited employment options of these vulnerable communities. Okay, another reference. Meaning, we have, through conducting researches related to this, or giving a conclusion which introduces the industry related to blind people having an occupation related to traditional healing. So what are the 2 important details that we learn from this? Next po, ma'am. Okay, it clearly states key findings of one's research, a finding that is arguably new. Okay. Dapat yung ating pong conclusion para may aha moment siya. So, meaning, since it is new to the readers, it seems that your research is interesting. But take note, it should related to findings. Secondly, it discusses these findings by arguing how it expands the existing literature. Meaning, there are articles that presented this practice, but somehow your conclusion give more details or add to or expands the existing literature about this practice in our country, especially those vulnerable member of our community. Pero take note that the limitation of the study is only in the location is only in Iloilo City. Okay. Let's have recommendations. Before that pala, ito, common errors in making qualitative conclusion. Number 1, when a concluding statement that the researchers think is correct and important is not supported by the study. So sometimes parang inviting yung ating pong study na sometimes we need to make our conclusion, but if that conclusion is not supported by data, by the study, please delete that or not include that in making our conclusion. And then when a generalization rather is made beyond the question. So as I said a while ago that we should consider always our statement of the problem, the context, population, and intervention that were not actually studied. So please always refer to the scope and limitation of our study as well as the statement of the problem. Okay, next. Okay. As I said a while ago, when there is no caution or important limitation in methods or their execution in the study, we should consider always the limitation of your study. If you create make a conclusion which is outside of your study, please remove it because these are the most common errors. When there is a false interpretation of statistical significance lacking in the study. So take note that we should consider the real data or the evidence of our study in making our conclusion. And of course, lastly, ma'am, Doc. Okay. Okay. So when there is varying away from inference to values and speculation, with subjective wordings clearly the researcher's point of view. Our conclusion should not be affected by our speculation, by our point of view. Should be, again, as I said a while ago, evidence-based and should be based from the research findings. Now, how about recommendations? Okay, let's go ahead po, ma'am. Doc. Okay. Recommendations should be always based from findings and conclusions. I know that the participants are exposed to this endeavor, to this kind of topics, and I believe some of you are more expert than me. But recommendations should serve as practical suggestions for future research in similar fields. As I said a while ago, some researches came from the recommendations of the previous researchers. So, next po. Okay. Well, the implications identify the areas of concern that can be addressed based on the findings. Our recommendations should provide or maybe provide maybe in terms of theoretical, practical, or methodological aspects. So these are the things to consider in making our recommendations. Next. Okay. This is the second function of our, ma'am, yung first function po muna. Delay, parang delay po kasi yung aking dito. I'm very sorry because, tapos na pala, sige po ma'am. I'm very sorry po because in my area today, meron difficulty ako sa internet connection. Sige po ma'am. Or doc. Okay. Our recommendation should relate to how future studies can be addressed the limitations of your research. For example, your research is limited only for some instances for a small size or a certain place or location or a certain study, your recommendation could give an idea to future researchers to expand it or to a more to a different limitation or variable rather in the future. Okay, next po, ma'am. These are the guidelines in writing your recommendation. Okay. Your recommendation should always match your conclusion. Self-explanatory na po yan. Provide no more than 2 recommendations for future research according to my research. Your recommendation can focus on specific agenda based on the findings of the study. Okay, next. Okay. You can also provide recommendations for the limitations of your study. Ito lang ang dapat natin tandaan. Avoid making recommendations for concern that could have been easily addressed in the conduct of the study. Make sure that your recommendation could give a reference to future researchers. Okay, next. Make your recommendation specific and for specific as possible for them to become practical and workable. If you give recommendation, dapat workable and practical for the future researchers. Now let's have an example of recommendation based from my conclusion a while ago. May sample conclusion from the findings. Okay. Based from those, from my example a while ago, these are the example of recommendation. A qualitative research such as a survey of the number of blind therapies, as well as their training and massages or services, would expand our understanding of the blind communities who appear to dominate the commercial massage services. Secondly, a study of the role of regulators and traditional alternative and complementary health services that would provide knowledge of the evolution of traditional massage and contemporary society in the context of commercial massage and those who work in the industry. So that the example shows us only 2 recommendations from based on the study, from the findings and conclusions. Okay, let's move on. Okay, these are the most important guidelines in writing the recommendation. It should be written in future tense. Okay. Next. Okay. The stylistic reason for the use of this tense suggests that the researcher is offering something that could be done in the near future. That's why we are using future tense. Okay, for our next topic about less references. Next po, Doc. Okay, we have, based from my study, there are 3 common commonly used referencing systems or in style of writing references. We have Vancouver style, EPA style na most common po, and Harvard style. So, ibibigay ko lang po yung way of how we present the reference in these 3 kinds of style. Next po, Doc. Okay, so in Vancouver style, ito po yung kanyang pamamaraan, the way to present the reference. So, hindi ko na po siguro isa-isahin, basahin pa. Tingnan natin yung kanyang way. For example, sa book, personal author or authors, surname or surname initial or initials. Nauna yung mga authors. You have here book, authors, and editors, chapter in a book, ebook. Next po, ma'am. Next po, Doc. For journal naman, journal article, or journal article on the internet. Okay. So, in journal article on the internet, we have here the author, and don't forget the website available from http www blah blah blah. So don't forget the website. How about APA, the most common style used in researches? APA stands for American Psychological Association. Style of listing reference. Next po, ma'am, or doc. Okay. Meron pa pala, in Vancouver style, web page, for dissertation and master's thesis. Ito po yung mga examples. These are the patterns for that. Newspapers and popular magazines, conference paper, for the unpublished paper. Okay, try to observe it. Next po, Doc. Okay, for government agency, Irish Department of Health and Children. The name of organization or agency will be stated first. Okay, next. For APA style. Okay, this is the common style that being used in researches. Okay, author first. For example, in book, personal author, year of publication, title of work, publisher, city or state, publisher. Okay. I know that we are knowledgeable with this style. Book, authors, and editors, chapter in a book, ebook. Okay, next. Journal article. Okay. We have also how to write the reference using journal article on internet. As you can see the difference between the two, we included the website, retrieved from blah 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 from the source in the internet. We have also website or web page. Okay, because sometimes we get our reference from the web page or website or article from the internet. Next po, Doc. We have web page with no author or name, unpublished doctoral, dissertation, and master's thesis. We have doctoral dissertation from the web, newspaper, or magazine article in the print. So these are the ways to present them, the references. Okay, next. Next, Doc. Okay, for online newspaper, we have conference paper and print proceedings, conference proceedings, government publication. Okay. You can observe the way it is being presented. Next po. For book with two authors, family or surname first, in initial. Chapter in an edited book, ganun din, family or surname first, initial of the author writing. For journal article printed, the same true authors or articles first. Next. Okay, let's have the Harvard referencing style. So example sa website, author of the website or family surname, and again, don't forget the the website of that reference or of that article. Dissertation or master's thesis, we have author, palagi tayong, we consider always the surname, year of publication, title, type of qualification, academic institution. We have newspaper also. Next. Okay, thank you very much. I hope I did justice to my topic. I'm sorry to our moderator kung minsan nagsasabi ko ng ma'am or doc because somehow ako din hindi ko po inalagay sa name ko yung doctor. Sometimes hindi ako nagpapatawag talaga ng doc. Thank you very much for this opportunity for me to share this topic. Actually, kaninang umaga 9 hanggang 4 o'clock ng afternoon nagkaroon po ako ng session. So sana may enough akong voice or energy and I give justice to my topic. Thank you very much for the opportunity. So Sir Doc Sanchez, thank you very much, Doc. Back to our moderator.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Garcia, for that very substantial, insightful, and informative discussion. So let us give Dr. Marvin Garcia virtual applause po. Thank you, Dr. Garcia. Okay lang kayo okay. Thank you so much po. Okay, so before we proceed with our Q&A portion, let's have first the photo opportunity. So may I request to open your camera po. And mag-open up tayo yung camera. Okay. Doc Richard, you do the honor of capturing.
Sige daw ako na magkuha. Okay, smile po. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Wait lang po ha, isa pa po.
Opo.
Okay, next po. Okay, 1, 2, 3, and smile po. Okay, that's it. Okay na po, thank you po. Okay na po, Doc Det. Back to you po.
Thank you, Dr. for that, for assisting, for the opportunity. Okay, so, okay pa po yung audio?
Medyo na ano ba?
Medyo choppy po.
Pa-react naman po, okay ang audio ko.
Medyo choppy po.
Medyo choppy po, ma'am.
Choppy po siya.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Wala pong sounds.
Nakamute po kayo, Doc.
Ayan po.
Yes po, meron po.
Meron na po ba? Wait lang po, ha? Ayan po. May audible?
Nakamute po kayo.
Nakamute ka po, Doc Lejarde. Doc Bernadette, nakamute ka po.